want to talk to you about pride versus confidence. A lot of people can't differentiate the two. Let's look at the definitions of it. Pride is a sense of self-superiority. Key word here being superiority. When you think of that word superiority, you think of hate groups and things like that. And pride is not a good thing, and it usually leads to bad things. There's a healthy sense of pride, but then there's a pride that, once, like this definition said, self-superiority, that's where it's wrong. Confidence is the quality or state of being certain, being sure of something. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Hopefully you're sure of your salvation. You're sure that salvation is in Yeshua. So Yahushua. Hopefully you're sure about that and him being the Messiah. In mankind's limited intelligence, these two qualities can appear to be the same. Yahuwah resists prideful people, but he expects those people he calls into service to be confident in the thing that he places inside of them. Well, I ask you some questions. Did he give you wisdom? Did he give you discernment? Do you have an exceptional gift in music? What about the gift of prophecy? See, no matter what Yahuwah has placed in you for service, he expects you to be confident, simply because it was he who gave it to you. Let's look at David, for instance. In 1 Samuel 17, starting at verse 24, the giant Philistine was defying the armies of Israel. Men of Israel were frightened of the Philistine. He was a giant, But David, who had been anointed to be king of Israel in the near future, he didn't have any fear of this Philistine. This Philistine was huge. I don't know if he was 9, 13 feet tall, something like that. But in 1 Samuel 16 and 13, the Spirit of Yahuwah came upon David in power. You see, when this happened, it stayed with him, and it gave confidence to David to conquer this Philistine. But see, several attacks against his character are to be noted in this powerful story that's in the scriptures. David's own brother Eliab presumed David as being conceited, prideful. We talked about that earlier. David's brother also said that he just knew how wicked David's heart was. So he thought. Eliab felt David should have been tending to the sheep instead of being in the midst of this historic event. But see, David remained with them in confidence. The king of Israel sent for David, and then David again, in confidence, said he would fight the Philistine. The king of Israel told David he was not able to challenge this Philistine for various reasons. Basically, one reason was because David was seen as just a little old sheep herder, He didn't appear as though he was able to fight this, this Philistine. David didn't simply listen to the king's advice on this occasion. See, David started remembering some things that happened in his life while he was tending his sheep. He told the king of his testimony about how Yahuwah had endowed him with power to survive attacks from a lion and a bear. And these were during his efforts to protect the sheep. See, David was confident that Yahuwah would do the same thing against the Philistine. But see, make a note of this, that David, if David had listened to the king of Israel's instruction at this point, the history with David that we know about David and Goliath, it would have never, it wouldn't happen. See, Yahuwah expects us to trust and to be loyal to those that are over us. You see, he does expect us to respect rightful authority, but there comes a time when in a man or a woman's life where they get a word from Yahuwah that must come first, regardless of who challenges it. I believe this is a point which a person is walking into their calling, for example, Yahuwah's knowledge surpasses man's knowledge, and it's not easy to go against what everyone else is saying and trust in the word of Yahuwah at times. And this takes faith. Yahuwah usually does things in your life to illustrate his power so that you can refer to these moments as encouragement, like he did with David when he survived the attacks when he was younger. Concerning your leaders in this world, before you submit to his or her authority, make sure that person is submitted to Yahuwah's authority first. Wouldn't it only make sense? Sometimes Yahuwah may ask you to take a word that he has given you to run with it. He expects you to hold on to his words, even if your peers or even sometimes your leaders don't understand, because sometimes your leaders are not being led by the Spirit of Yahuwah. And you might catch them in one of those moments where they're being led by their own thoughts and mind, and you got to remember, Yahuwah's thoughts are higher than ours. He may give you a word to run with it and expect you to hold on to it. But it's not listen to this part. See, it's no disrespect to a leader if those under he or she listens to Yahuwah above his or hers. Listen, leaders, we're not, not all of us are perfect. And it is no disrespect to you if someone under you in a position has to override what you say if they are being led by Yahuwah and you're not. A leader would be offended by that. It should be expected. If you're teaching right, you should teach a person that Yahuwah's voice it just overrules everybody else's. See? Okay, for example, let's say if you worked at, wherever your place of employment is, you have your immediate supervisor and you have a supervisor of your supervisor. Well, what if your supervisor came to you and just gave you an order? What are you going to do? You have to follow that order. And a lot of times, if your immediate supervisor may ask you, you'd be like, well, I can't, I have to do it this way because your supervisor told me to do it this way. And that person should submit at that point. This lesson is not supporting rebellion against leaders. No. It's just saying let Yahuwah confirm everything that you do. If your leaders are led by Yahuwah, this will produce no conflict at all. Just make sure you know Yahuwah's voice first in your own heart to be able to distinguish what's coming from Yahuwah and what isn't coming from Yahuwah. If you don't know how to do this, it will hinder your growth, your growth in following Yahushua. In closing, I want to say that confidence in Yahuwah's gift that he has given you is not prideful. It gives Yahuwah the glory, and he loves to see you trust him. Confidence in yourself or any other man other than Yahuwah is not right and is misleading.